you're welcome. Oh, you didn't get a thumper. Got that, but not that. Don't do it on my head.
I didn't get us a hard copy.
I was thinking about it. I had too much help. I can't take two steps too well.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we get our meeting started, I'd ask for you to please rise and join me in a round of applause for Michael Brown being able to be back with us at council. He has been out with an illness, but I will tell you, he has kept up with everything that's going on. I mean, sometimes when the phone rings in the office, they say, "Uh-oh, it's Michael." You know, but he's kept up to date with everything that's going on. And Michael, we're just very glad that you're back here with us tonight, my friend.
I thank you guys also for being there and helping.
And while we're up, I'll ask that you stay up in order that we can have the invocation followed by the pledge. God, we thank you for the blessings that we receive on a daily basis. We know that all the time we don't deserve it. We know that you give them to us anyway. Help us to always strive to live a better life. Help us to always strive to do things that makes life better for everybody else as well. Give us love, give us wisdom, and give us understanding. In thy name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first meeting of each month is the time we take an opportunity to introduce our new employees to council and the public, and then introduce them to us. So as I call your name, I'm going to ask that you please come up and start in line up down there so you can be recognized. From our tourism marketing assistant, Lauren Ellis. From the police department, John Jimenez, Anthony Taylor, Christopher Shermer-Merhorn. Did I get it right? Somewhere along there. Irvin Armstrong, Michael Layton, Natalie Perales, and Kenneth Davis. These are all police officers. From our fire department, Joseph Forgerhouse. How's it, buddy? Huh? Fugarus. I'd have never got that. James Morris. Antonio Harley. Kirk Shahalu. How close am I? Close a little bit. I'll just call you Kurt. William White. Ryan Templeton. Jalen Davis. And Kevin Ta. Tay. Which one is it, Kevin? Tay. Oh, I got it right the first time. Pretty good. Public Works Department, William Wright. First of all, I want to welcome you to the group of employees that we have here at the city. Roughly 1,100 people work for the city. We try to make your environment the best we can so that you can have a good time working with us and enjoy what you do to make our community better. At the same time, as you well know, we're public servants, so we have demands on us sometimes that go a little bit beyond the norm. But I can tell you, it's one of the most rewarding experiences that you will ever have, is to make other people's lives better. And each of you will have an opportunity to do that as employees of the city. I'm going to ask you to turn around now and look at your council. These are the men and women that provide the budget that gives you your jobs. And they're very important to us. And each of them represents a district, and they have needs in those districts that they will sometimes talk with the individual departments about as they have needs that come up. They are good people. They are good people that represent this community as a whole, and we hope that you enjoy your time working with the city of North Charleston. Maybe 28 years from now, somebody will be up here saying, "Job well done. You are welcome to go home retired." God bless you. And be seated. And you don't have to stay for the meeting.
Item 1 is a request to approve the minutes from the May 24th, 2018 City Council meeting.
Have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any changes? Hearing none, the clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Jamison?
Aye.
Mr. Brinson? Aye. Mr. Olds?
Aye.
Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Skipper?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 2 is the final reading of an ordinance adopting a bill to be entitled the Budget Ordinance of the City of North Charleston, South Carolina, fiscal year ending June 30, 2019.
Move approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, once
sir.
again, thanks for the diligence in this committee, or council, for all that you've done to put this together, and for extending the removal of the millage increase at the expiration of 10 years. Although we know we may not be here, but we have set a precedent that I think is very favorable to the constituency and taxpayers.
That's actually on the next item, but it is on the budget.
Oh, no, that's on this one.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, the clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Jamison? Mr. Brinson?
Aye.
Mr. Olds?
Aye.
Pardon me, Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Skipper?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 3 is the final reading of an ordinance adopting a new stormwater management utility fees and providing for the classification of real property subject to such fees and repealing ordinance number 2009-043, which adopted stormwater management utility fees.
So moved.
Got a motion, second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Jamison?
No.
Mr. Brinson?
Aye.
Mr. Olds?
Aye.
Mr. Hart?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Skipper?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Summy?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 4 is the first reading of an ordinance rezoning the properties addressed as 1033 and 1037 East Montague Avenue, Charleston County TMS numbers 47008, lots 288 and 291, from B2 General Business to CRD Commercial Redevelopment in Council District 8.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. As Madam Clerk just mentioned, we have a rezoning request for 1033 and 1037 East Montague Avenue. That is in Council District 8, and it's a proposal to rezone from B2 General Business to CRD Commercial Redevelopment. There you have an aerial view of the property at 1033 and 37 East Montague Avenue. And the proposal to rezone the properties from B2 General Business to CRD Commercial Redevelopment. You see the B2 zoning there is in the red, and approximately 500 feet is light blue, green CRD Commercial Redevelopment. And the comprehensive plan's future land use map designation for the property is the red major business retail designation. Subject properties are located just east of the East Montague and O'Hare Avenue intersection, and the applicant is seeking to rezone the property from B2 to CRD. One of the primary differences between the current zoning of the property, B2, and the proposed CRD zoning is that CRD allows microbreweries, bars, and clubs, as well as pharmaceutical manufacturing and wholesale sales, while B2 does not. The properties are subject to the Old Village Business Overlay District, which encourages local tourism, active living, and lively storefronts, bustling with pedestrian activity. The nearest CRD zoning is fewer than 500 feet away at the intersection of Empire Avenue and O'Hare Avenue. The zoning would be appropriate given the mix of uses on the surrounding areas, and the future land use map is designated as major business retail. Staff recommendation is contingent approval that the parcels are combined to meet the minimum size requirements, and the Planning Commission has recommended contingent approval.
Any questions by council?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The CRD descriptions of uses that you named, are those the only uses allowed in that CRD?
No, sir, it's very similar to the B2 zoning commercial district. Those uses I listed are in addition to the B2 zoning designation.
And that's the limit of what, the additional limits?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, so maybe I'm not saying it right. You named a few additionals. Is that all that would be permitted beyond the existing B2 permitted uses?
No, those are the main ones. There may be a few other ones.
Okay.
Happy to do a comparison for next.
Okay, just want to, I'll look it up. I'll verify. Thank you.
Any other questions? Without objection, this is referred to our Public Safety Committee, which meets next Thursday at 5 p.m.
Item 5 is the first reading of an ordinance rezoning the properties addressed as 2758 and 2762 Dantzler Drive, Charleston County, TMS numbers 48606, lots 3 and 4, from R1 Single Family Residential to B1 Limited Business, and concurrently amending the comprehensive plan future land use map for the same parcels, changing them from single family suburban to neighborhood commercial in Council District 3.
Okay, we have a proposed rezoning at 2758 and 2762 Dantzler Drive. The existing zoning is R1 Single Family Residential, and the request is to rezone it to B1 Limited Business. You can see an aerial view of the properties there on Dantzler Drive, close to the intersection there with University Boulevard. The proposed rezoning is from the R1 Single Family Residential, which is in the, it's hard to tell up there, the light yellow, to B1 Limited Business. And the comprehensive plan designation for the property is currently Single Family Suburban there in the yellow, and it would need to be changed to the neighborhood commercial designation if a rezoning would be approved. Subject properties are located in the Deer Park neighborhood on Dantzler Drive, approximately 500 feet from its intersection with University Boulevard. The applicant has requested that the property be rezoned from R1 to B1. Commercial zoning in this location would represent an expansion of commercial activity into the neighborhood, which the neighborhood residents have opposed over the years. The comprehensive plan's future land map designates the subject property as single-family suburban use. Thus, staff has recommended denial, and the Planning Commission has recommended denial as well.
Any questions by council?
Mayor Sami,
Yes, ma'am.
Council, I don't have a recommendation, but I would like to say something. The Deer Park neighborhood has experienced a lot of rezoning over the years. When I came to council, I specifically asked and worked towards kind of limiting some things that go on in Deer Park. It is a beautiful old neighborhood that needs some stormwater drain fixing, but we're concerned about things that are coming into the neighborhood that may encroach upon our quality of life. Right now on Dantzler, as you're going out to University Boulevard, there is no traffic light or anything, so people are having to revert back into the neighborhood for outage onto the frontage road. These are things that I would ask the mayor and council to consider as we go forward looking at this rezoning. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
And to planning, when are we officially up for the redrafting and approval of the comprehensive use plan, land use plan?
We're starting that process. We hope to talk to council here in August at a committee meeting here shortly, and then begin the public process in October of this year.
So we're probably another 120, 180 days before an official approval?
Yes, sir. At
I
least.
think we'd
At
be
least,
safe
yeah.
by the end of the year.
Thank you.
Any other questions by council? Hearing none without objection, it's referred to the Public Safety Committee, which meets at 5 p.m. next Thursday.
Item 6 is the first reading of an ordinance rezoning the properties addressed as 2792 and 2796 Dantzler Drive, Charleston County, TMS numbers 48606, lots 8 and 9, from R1 Single Family Residential to B1 Limited Business, and concurrently amending the comprehensive plan's future land use map for those same parcels, changing them from single-family suburban to neighborhood commercial in Council District 3.
Okay, as Madam Clerk mentioned, we have a proposed rezoning request on Dantzler Drive at 2792 and 2796 from R1 Single Family Residential to B1 Limited Business. There you have an aerial view of the two properties at the end of Dantzler Drive. And the proposed rezoning is from the R1 Single Family Residential in that light yellow color to B1 Limited District, which is represented on the map as light blue. And the proposed map amendment would be from Single Family Suburban to Neighborhood Commercial. Subject properties are located in the Deer Park neighborhood on Dantzler Drive, approximately 1,000 feet from its intersection with University Boulevard, and the applicant has requested the property be rezoned from R1 to B1. Commercial zoning in this location would represent an expansion of commercial activity into the neighborhood, which the neighborhood residents have opposed over the years. Given the desire to maintain the residential character internal to Deer Park and the fact that the requested zoning is not supported by the future land use map, staff has recommended denial, and the Planning Commission has recommended denial as well.
Any questions by council?
Is this new from what we've previously looked at in the last 2 months, these two parcels?
Yes, sir.
These are two additional ones.
Yes, sir.
So we had 4 previously, did we not? But it was on the opposite side of the road, am I correct? Thank you.
All right, no more questions. Without objection, it's referred to the Public Safety Committee, which meets at 5 p.m. next Thursday.
Item 7 is the first reading of an ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 3255 Meeting Street Road, Charleston County, TMS number 46911-00200, from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Multifamily Residential, and concurrently amending the comprehensive plan's future land use map for the same parcel, changing it from single-family traditional to multifamily residential in Council District 10.
And we have a proposed rezoning request at 3255 Meeting Street Road from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Multifamily Residential. There you have an aerial view of the property along Meeting Street Road. And the proposed rezoning request is to rezone it from R1 Single Family Residential, represented in the light yellow, to R2 Multifamily Residential. And the comprehensive plan's future land use map designates the property as single family traditional there in the yellow, and it would have to be changed to multifamily residential. The subject property is located in the Pettigrew neighborhood. The property is developed with an existing building that appears to have been expanded over time and now covers almost the entire parcel. The applicant is seeking to rezone the subject property to R2. The lot does not meet any of the dimensional requirements for R2, and there's no adjacent R2 properties. And the future land use map designates the surrounding area as single-family traditional. An amendment to the comprehensive plan would be required to change the future land use to multifamily residential. The applicant's building is currently configured with a commercial restaurant space downstairs and an apartment above. Due to the parcel's single-family zoning, the bottom floor cannot be used as currently equipped, nor can it be converted to a dwelling under the R1 zoning. The zoning regulations define a single-family dwelling as one building containing one dwelling unit. Therefore, conversion of the bottom floor to residential space would be creating a dwelling unit within a building already developed with apartments and is thus prohibited. Also, the legal but non-conforming multifamily use may not be expanded by creating another unit in the same building. Accordingly, the applicant's only potential permitted use for the bottom floor is a church. However, given the lack of parking area on the parcel and the adjacent church, a church seems an unlikely use. While staff notes the surrounding R1 zone properties and the lack of support in the future land use map, staff does not believe the multifamily zoning will be a detriment to the surrounding community, as a portion of the building is already used as multifamily development, so this rezoning would likely result in an additional apartment within the existing structure. Accordingly, staff has recommended approval of the rezoning. The Planning Commission recommendation, they have recommended denial.
Any questions? Hearing none without objection, is referred to the Public Safety Committee, which meets next Thursday at 5 p.m.
Item 8 is the first reading of an ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 3775 Spruill Avenue, Charleston County, TMS 46907, Lot 19, from B2 General Business to CRD Commercial Redevelopment, and a concurrent amendment to the Comprehensive Plan's future land use map for the same parcel, changing it from institutional to major business retail in Council District 10.
As Madam Clerk has mentioned, we have a proposed rezoning request at 3775 Spruill Avenue. The existing zoning is B2 General Business, and the requested zoning is CRD Commercial Redevelopment. There you have an aerial view of the property that is situated along Spruill Avenue. The proposed rezoning of the property along Spruill is from B2 General Business, which is represented there in the red color, to CRD Commercial Redevelopment. And the future land use map designation for the property is institutional. They're shown in blue. And it would be, the land use map would need to be amended to major business retail. Subject property is located along Spruill Avenue and is currently occupied with a church and parking lot. The applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property to CRD, Commercial Redevelopment, which will require an amendment to the Comprehensive Plan's future land use map. Adjacent and properties in close proximity have an R2 multifamily residential zoning designation. The Comprehensive Plan's future land use map designates the subject property as institutional due to its existing use and the surrounding properties as multifamily. An amendment to the Comprehensive Plan to designate the future land use to major business retail would be required to support the rezoning. Based on the surrounding multifamily use and zoning and the fact that the zoning is not supported by the future land use map, staff has recommended denial, and the Planning Commission has recommended denial as well.
Any questions by council? Hearing none without objection, it's referred to the Public Safety Committee, which meets at 5 p.m. next Thursday.
Item 9 is the first reading of an ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 4122 Meeting Street Road, Charleston County, TMS number 470-1100, Lot 8, from B2 General Business to M1 Light Industrial in Council District 7.
Okay, again, we have a rezoning request at 4122 Meeting Street Road. Existing zoning is B2 General Business, and the requested zoning is M1 Light Industrial. There you have an aerial view of the property along Meeting Street Road. You have a proposed rezoning of 4122 Meeting Street Road from B2 General Business, which is shown there in the red, to M1 Light Industrial, which is the light purple there adjacent and encompassing the property. The future land use map designation for the property is light industrial. The subject portion of the property is a vacant area along Meeting Street Road, north of the Melbourne Avenue intersection. The applicant has proposed rezoning the B2 zone portion of the property to M1 in keeping with the existing M1 zoning of the rest of the property. Additionally, an adjacent 5-acre tract to the rear of the property is currently zoned M1, while the adjacent properties fronting along Meeting Street Road are zoned B2. The comprehensive plan's future land use map designates this property as light industrial, along with the other B2 zone properties. Based on the adjacent M1 zone properties and the support of the future land use map, staff has recommended approval and the Planning Commission has recommended approval.
Any questions by council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I tried to take a look at this piece of property, but there's not a street number located.
It's Westendale's property.
It's where, you remember where the county courthouse was moved after Hugo in the building? Now they've got, I think, an EMS station and a magistrate's court on that side street. What this does, what they're looking for, we actually sold them the property in the back behind it. What they're looking for in the rezoning is an outlet to Meeting Street without having to go through the side street to get access to their property.
So this property is recessed back to the old.
This would give an outlet and entrance into the property, that the larger developable property, without having to go down the side street.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, without objection, it's referred to the Public Safety Committee, which meets at 5 p.m. next Thursday.
Item number 10 is the first reading of an ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 4501 Dorsey Avenue, Charleston County TMS 41011000035 from B2 General Business to M1 Light Industrial, and concurrently amend the comprehensive plan future land use map for the same parcel, changing it from multifamily residential to light industrial.
Again, we have a rezoning request at 4501 Dorsey Avenue. The existing zoning is B2 General Business, and the request is for M1 Light Industrial. There you have an aerial view of the property along Dorsey Avenue, close to the intersection with Faber Road. The proposed rezoning is from B2 General Business, which is represented there in the red color, to M1 Light Industrial. And it would require a map amendment to the future land use map from multifamily residential, which is the orange color there on the map, to light industrial. This property is located on Dorsey Avenue, just west of the Dorchester-Faber Road intersection in the Surprise neighborhood. The applicant is seeking to rezone the property from B2 to M1, which would require an amendment to the comprehensive plan's future land use map. The property is adjacent to 2 parcels in the city, which are zoned B2. The adjacent unincorporated parcels, which are mainly vacant, are all zoned mixed-style residential in Charleston County. The comprehensive plan's future land use map designates the subject property for multifamily residential and surrounding properties with the major business retail designation. Based on the B2 zoning and county residential zoning and the lack of support from the comprehensive plan, staff has recommended denial, and the Planning Commission has recommended denial as well.
Any questions by council? Hearing none, without objection, it will be referred to the Public Safety Committee, which meets at 5 p.m. next Thursday.
Item 11 is the first reading of an ordinance to rezone the property addressed as 4731 Mixon Avenue, pardon me, Charleston County TMS 47003000331, from B1 Limited Business to B2 General Business, and concurrently amending the comprehensive plan's future land use map for the same parcel, changing it from neighborhood commercial to major business retail in Council District 8.
We have a proposed rezoning request to rezone 4731 Mixon Avenue from B1 Limited Business to B2 General Business. There's an aerial view of the property along Mixon Avenue. And the proposed rezoning is from B1 Limited Business, represented in the light blue on the map there, to B2 General Business. The rezoning would require an amendment to the future land use map designation, as currently the property is designated neighborhood commercial, and it would need to be amended to major business retail. Subject property is located near the intersection of Mixon and East Montague Avenues in the Palmetto Gardens neighborhood. The applicant has requested that the subject property be rezoned from B1 to B2, which would allow more intensive commercial use of the properties. All adjacent properties and properties along the south side of East Montague Avenue have B1 zoning and a neighborhood commercial future land use designation. The nearest B2 zoning is across the intersection of East Montague Avenue, approximately 300 feet away. The subject parcel is designated in the comprehensive plan's future land use map for neighborhood commercial, which supports the current zoning. Based on the existing uses and the lack of comprehensive plan support, staff has recommended denial of the rezoning, and the Planning Commission has recommended approval.
Any questions by council?
Mayor, that's not in the Palmetto Gardens, that's in Liberty Hill. It's not Palmetto Gardens.
No, you're right, it's
Right on the edge there, I believe.
for those who were familiar with the area at one time, it was
Liberty Hill.
a parts store, I think, and then it was converted into a law office.
Bobby Connor's law office.
Bobby Connor's law office, yes. Any other questions by council? Hearing none, without objection, it's referred to the Public Safety Committee, which meets at 5 p.m. next Thursday.
And on the way, item 12 is the first reading of an ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 5101 Ashley Phosphate Road, Dorchester County, TMS 1810000, Lot 88, from B2 General Business to B3 Commercial Recreation and Highway-Oriented Uses, and concurrently amending the comprehensive plan's future land use map for the same parcel, changing it from major business retail to highway-oriented use in Council District 1.
As Madam Clerk mentioned, we have a proposed rezoning request at 5101 Ashley Phosphate Road. The existing zoning is B2 General Business, and the requested zoning is B3 Commercial Recreation and Highway-Oriented Uses. There you have an aerial of the property located at the corner of Ashley Phosphate and Patriot Boulevard. The proposed rezoning request is from B2 General Business, designated there in the red, to B3 Commercial Recreation and Highway-Oriented Uses. The comprehensive plan's future land use map has a designation of major business retail and would need to be amended to highway-oriented use. Subject property is located at the corner of Ashley Phosphate Road and Dorchester Road and is occupied by the Festival Center, a large shopping center, and its associated parking lots and access points. The applicant is seeking to rezone the Festival Center to B3 zoning, which allows for commercial recreational uses such as theaters, dance halls, and clubs, provided it is 1,000 feet from any residential use. The area surrounding the intersection of Ashley Phosphate and Dorchester Road is considered to be a high-intensity commercial node in the city and is dominated by B2 uses and zonings, including 8 of the 9 outparcels that have B2 zoning. The property was previously split zoned M1 and B3 prior to the recent rezoning to B2. The comprehensive plan's future land use map supports the current zoning on the property and would require an amendment to the highway-oriented use. Per the applicant, a former clerk had made an error and requested the parcel to be rezoned from M1 and B3 to B2 when the intent was to rezone the entire parcel to the B3 use. Based on the development of the property, the existing uses, and the prior B3 zoning, staff has recommended approval of the rezoning request, and the Planning Commission has also recommended approval.
Any questions by council?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor. Yes, sir. If I may, please, and I put my glasses on. I had them down, but I put them on to re-verify. I think we got a discrepancy here, and we're confused. So staff is approving or supporting this,
Yes,
and
sir.
the Planning Commission supported it. Because
sir.
in the notes, it says the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend denial 6-0, with one member being recused.
Should say approval there, sir. I apologize for the discrepancy.
Well, I was going to try to hold this out, but why would we go B3 on such a large tract of property here when we haven't done it on Rivers Avenue and there's a church in this corridor? And why would we open this up to all these type uses in B3?
It's my understanding that the parcel was originally zoned B3. And
We're not talking about what it was, and I'm not.
I understand.
Y'all are recommending it, so we'll hold it over for committee. That's fine. Thank you.
I want everybody to be mindful of the fact that the announcement was made today that we're going to lose 600 employees out of that shopping center. The call center is going to close, and I think we need to be very cognizant of what we do to entice people back into that shopping center.
I'm all for promoting economic development, Mayor, but the type uses under B3, I think that's a little.
Well, I think that's what I was saying is, what are we going to create long-term? Because we also have a church in that shopping center as well. Okay. Without objection, it's referred to the Public Safety Committee, and it meets next Thursday at 5 p.m.
Item 13 is the first reading of an ordinance rezoning the property addressed as 7935 Dorchester Road, Charleston County, TMS number 4040000 lot, 012, from B1 Limited Business to B2 General Business, and concurrently amending the comprehensive plan future land use map for the same parcel, changing it from neighborhood commercial to major business retail in Council District 9.
We have a proposed rezoning request at 7935 Dorchester Road. The existing zoning is B1 Limited Business, and the requested zoning is B2 General Business. There you have an area of the property along Dorchester Road at the intersection with Parkgate Drive. The proposed rezoning request is from B1 Limited Business, they're represented in the light blue, to B2 General Business. And this would require an amendment to the comprehensive plan's future land use map, as the current designation is neighborhood commercial, and it would need to be amended to major business retail. Subject property sits along Dorchester Road on the Charleston-Dorchester County boundary in front of the Park at River's Edge community. The applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property to B2 General Business, which will require an amendment to the comprehensive plan's future land use map. Adjacent properties in close proximity have a B1 zoning designation. The adjacent parcel in unincorporated Dorchester County is zoned neighborhood commercial, which appears to correspond to the city's B1 zoning. The parcel to the south is zoned R2 multifamily residential, while Doorway Baptist is zoned B1. The nearest B2 zoning is located on the opposite side of Dorchester Road. The comprehensive plan's future land use map designates the parcel and those adjacent to it on Dorchester Road as neighborhood commercial, which supports the current zoning and would require an amendment to the major business retail designation. Based on the surrounding B1 zone properties and the comprehensive plan recommendation, staff has recommended denial and the Planning Commission has recommended denial.
Any questions by council? Without objection, it's referred to the Public Safety Committee, which meets at 5 p.m. next Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of work tonight.
We have, let me explain for a minute, 3 people who have signed up, 1 person who missed the deadline for last meeting, but she asked that it be held over, and I don't know if she's here or not. So
Okay.
I can call her, but I don't know if she's here. Kaylin Morrison?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you did come, good.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes, dear.
This is my first time here, so thanks for having me. I wanted to talk about the need for
Address.
Name and address, please. Part of it.
Kaylin Morrison, 3872 Walnut Street. And I wanted to talk about the need for sidewalks and bike lanes on Meeting Street in North Charleston between the intersections of Rivers and Dorchester. I've seen a couple people on wheelchairs in this area, and just want to make it like a safer section for them and also for pedestrians and cyclists. There are a lot of people going to the American Metals there to sell their metals, and they're just walking. There's no margins on the road, and there's a lot of big trucks coming from CSX and from Snyder. So it's just I feel like it could really use some sidewalks and bike lanes. I think there's potential to have funding through ADA or CSX or Transportation Alternatives Program or Charleston County Transportation Committee. So they just told me the next step is to come here and talk to you guys.
All those funding sources sounds good, but if you can talk CSX out of some money, I will hire you tomorrow.
I don't know. It's no hurt in asking.
Okay.
Yeah, and I live in that community right there in Whipper Barony, so we commute a lot on bike too. We share a car, and making that road accessible by bike would help us have a safer commute to school because there's not as many businesses there turning. When we bike down rivers, there's a lot of people turning into all those businesses there. So I think the meeting street would be a more direct, safer way for us to bike, especially with our kids, because we go to Hersey right there.
Okay.
So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
By the way, speaking of CSX, this morning at 6:15 was the first report we got of a train blocking Spruill Avenue, Montague Avenue, South Rhett Avenue, and it finally moved at 9:15. Same train. And so, needless to say, we have made some phone calls in regard to it. I don't know if we get anywhere, right, Bob?
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're talking about rush hour traffic, and there are ways to get around the train. But a lot of the people that are new to the area don't know those routes to get around that train. Thank God school was not in session, but I think those of us who've lived in North Charleston for a long period of time and those that have moved into the area understand that we have trains. But all we ask is they be respectful of us as we are of them. I mean, there's not any excuse to sit waiting to get in a yard from 6:15 to 9:15 except poor operation. So we're going to continue to press and push, and hopefully somebody will give us a kind ear. Okay, Madam Clerk.
The next person signed up to speak is Peggy Hudson.
And I live at 2758 Dantzler Drive. And I'm here again trying to get my property rezoned that has been denied. I have lived 35 years on Dantzler Drive. I have been in every meeting that they had to keep out all this encroachment from businesses on Dantzler Drive. So things changed in my life, and I decided that I needed to find out what my property was worth. And I have been really shot down. I've heard a lot of talk in these meetings about the value of my property. I don't know that people understand replacement costs is a lot. I still need a home. I just don't need to be where I'm at. I'm not physically able or financially able to maintain that place. And I don't understand why all of the encroachment was allowed to come all the way down Dantzler Drive to my property, and the Meade property across the street is like, we drew the line, we're done. And I also heard about how good the Planning Commission did at a meeting I was recently at. For me, that's not a good meeting. Where are all of these ordinances that we're supposed to be obeying, and where have they been all these years? Because I am completely surrounded by commercial. Everything from a medical complex. We got Zaxby's, and we got Wendy's, and we got a daycare. We got a donut place. Like I said, that's what surrounds me from the back to my side. I cannot understand why that I am being turned down. I mean, what are the reasons? Where do y'all get the reasons why you stop? Because I don't know anything about the ordinances that they're talking about that they have kept. I've never seen them, and I don't know how you obtain them. Nobody on Dancer Drive or in Deer Park has put up with all the business commercial encroachment that I have. Nobody. It's still there to be seen. So my reason is just what do I need to do? Do I need to just suck it up and go home and forget it? Or do I need to keep trying? Because it's not right. I feel like the people on Dancer Drive think that I'm trying to crucify them. I'm not. I just need to I'm a widow. I need to take care of myself. But nothing has been, I have buffered them all these years for them to have all that peace over there on the other side of the street. But I'm really the bad guy with everybody. But I'm not the bad guy. I am I'm a 78-year-old widow, and I'm trying to take care of myself. I don't want to be on the system.
Time's up.
But it can very possibly happen.
Your time is up, but I'll remind you that this is not a vote has not been taken yet by the body. Next Thursday at 5 will be the committee where you will have an opportunity to address council again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Dottie Weaver.
My name is Dottie Weaver. I live at 2225 Dunlap Street, Charleston, South Carolina. I'm here in support of Miss Peggy Hudson. I think I agree with her as far as all the encroachment that we hear about in the line of delineation, which is an illusion to me because it seems to move when big businesses comes in. And to address Miss Jameson, when she came to this job, just like when my mother at 2737 across from Miss Hudson, it's been so much change since you've been there. And I, as well as Miss Hudson, does not understand how y'all come to these conclusions because Mr. Olds made a very good point last time as to, I think he said it was 7 residents by the time the 5 of us, if we get rezoned. And so he suggested that why didn't they go ahead and get their property rezoned? That doesn't mean they have to move, as you stated. But for us to keep fighting when my mother's property and Miss Hudson's property, it's already up to their doors. It's affected Mrs. Hudson's sale of her home. She too, like she said, is a widow. Our property is not to hurt anyone, to sell it. We don't need my mother's property per se. We can't, the other Mrs. Hudson, Miss Mary Frances, she wants my mother's property as a buffer for her. Who buffered my mother? No one. That property was rezoned in 2006. Who is now buffering up against Miss Hudson, Miss Peggy Hudson? They're up to her door. So it's not going into the neighborhood. But what about the rest of us? All I'm asking for Miss Hudson as well as myself is to be fair and just. And I won't say to let your conscience be your guide, because Dr. Charles Stanley taught me against that. Some people's moral compass is off. I'm just asking for fairness for what is all around my mother and Miss Hudson. Just to be fair, my mother is 0.54 acres. It's a spit in the wind, but y'all stopped it even before Mrs. Peggy Hudson tried to get hers rezoned. That I'll never understand, and I've asked at every meeting, could somebody tell me the rules of the game, which so far I've yet not got an answer. Because when people can say yay or nay and not have to give accountability, because y'all are, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, you are public servants. And the taxpayers, as far as I'm concerned, I know they pay your salary. Is that not correct? So for somebody not to give us an answer as a public servant, I think is a disservice, Mayor Summy. I truly do.
What kind of answer do you want?
Pardon?
What kind of answer do you want?
How is it that you can say yay or nay to this one over here and not this one over here and not not make,
Because there's a line of embarkation that's generally established when you're developing commercial. Highway 78, or whatever you want
University
to call it,
Boulevard.
University Boulevard, used to be nothing. It has widened now into, what, 6 lanes?
since my mother's gone, I
And
travel it.
therefore, nobody, all the property along the highway became commercial because nobody wanted to live head on a 6-lane highway. And so what we have tried to do with the land use plan over the years is establish a line of demarcation where you can't go any further. And that's what we've tried to do. The fear of a lot of the people who live in that area is that if you go deeper, then it's going to continue to go deeper, and the whole area, at least the front half of the neighborhood, could become commercial or office development or what have you. So this body is caught in a position where we're listening to the majority of the people who live in the community, and that voice that we've heard to date is that they don't want it to come any deeper.
Well,
And Ms. Jameson can verify that or not, but I believe that that is the case.
I can understand that, and I think that's totally a good answer from what you just said, but my mother's just so happened to be at the same time is Sunoco. Sunoco went, if my memory serves me right, like 800 and something feet into, and they bought 2631, I think, Fernwood, is it? To get that Sunoco. They encroached in that property, bought a residential lot, bought the residential lot to make that happen. The same time my mother's was rejected. So as far as encroachment, they went a lot. I think my mother's was 640 something feet or something, but they had to go further in, buy 2631 Fernwood to make that happen.
Time's up.
Your time has been up for a while, but we've been having
Well,
a
I mean, I was
dialogue
just
with you.
addressing-
Yeah, I understand. The issue, though, is, again, you will have an opportunity to speak again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jameson, did you have any comment you wanted to make now?
No, Mayor, you satisfied that very, very nicely. And I just want us to be neighborhoods where we have R1 properties and commercial properties or in that zoning. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Betty Evitz.
She didn't get
Not
it.
here? And then that's all.
That's all. Anybody from council have anything to say before we leave? Hearing none again, Michael. Yes, sir, Mr. King.
Mayor, we had these people come and speak on zoning. The reason we changed the zoning ordinance so they could not do that. And we're allowing them to do that, to come to this meeting. And the people in the community are not notified. A lot of them are not notified. So I think that's an injustice. I think we need to go back to the old system where we do have a notification.
Well, Bob, let me answer that the best that I can. These folks have taken advantage of a situation where they can sign up to speak on any subject they want. When we have a public hearing on an item, they don't have to sign up in advance of this meeting. When we were to have the public hearings on zoning, we moved them to the committee meeting where they can come and speak. These folks are just very bright and use an adjustment into the system that they got an opportunity to speak. It's not, anybody can sign up to speak for any subject at the close of our general meeting. They're limited to 3 minutes, but, you know.
Mayor, we talked about them not talking about zonation. They could talk about other issues, but not zoning when we talked about this. And the problem is we need to notify the planning board, let the planning board people say, well, you have an opportunity if you want to go sign up and speak to city council, you can get 3 minutes to do that. They don't know that, and that's unfair. And I think we need to have some kind of form of notification. I know these people were alerted to it, but everybody's not alerted. You had all these other things that people are not in.
I don't think they were alerted to it. I just think they made a decision to take advantage of the rules, and I don't condemn them for that.
Well, that's true, but it's not a fair rule the way we operate in it.
Well,
So-
no, anybody else could do the same thing, Bob.
Well,
That's what makes it fair.
Okay, so we'll have a lot of people coming for future zoning changes. People should be able to know to come. If they don't know about it, I'll certainly notify them. And
We appreciate your efforts on that behalf. Anything else to come before the body? Hearing none, the meeting's adjourned.